You're going to come over to where your name is at the top, and you're going to click down and click Set Preferences. You have a General tab, Home, Security, Gradebook, and Communication. Your General tab gives you some options. You can set your default school. You can set how often X2 will autosave for you, how many records per page you want, and whether or not you want to be warned on saving. Going to the home, you can select what you want on your home screen. So this is the home screen, and you can see what's checked and you can see what shows up. So if you don't want announcements to show up, which I do recommend that you have that clicked, you could uncheck it. If you don't want school links or websites, you can uncheck it. So that's how you would set that up. Under security, this is your primary email address. You do want that to be your Board of Ed email address. Under gradebook, there are a few things that you want to pay attention to in gradebook. So this first one is whether or not you want every other line to be shaded. There's a couple things. If you hit the tab key, do you want it to go across or down? You can adjust that there. You can also adjust how your assignment columns go. Do you want them to be by due date ascending or descending? You can show your points and headers, category names. There's several things that you can add in here. I want to point this out just for you to remember later down the road. If it comes to the point where you have to recommend a student for a course, let's say that they're taking Art 1 and you want to recommend them for Art 2, in order to do so, when guidance emails you and tells you, this is where you would check it in order to show your course recommendations. Coming on down here, add to all linked classes by default. So if you teach multiple classes of the same prep, you teach 5 Art 1 classes, then if you check this box, when you add an assignment to one Art 1 class, it will add it to all of them if they are linked together, and I'll show you that later. There's some options with missing assignments, and then under grade scale, you want to select standard. Lastly is communication. You can add your photo, and this is your Google Docs email if you want. I would leave this page alone, and then OK. The next thing that you want to do is to set up your categories. In Wicomico County, per our grading policy as of the date of this video, there should be 2 categories that you need to have, formative and summative. In order to make sure that you can change your categories, you first have to see your classes. And to see them, you'll want to click on the filter that's right here, and you can check whether you want current classes, this year's classes, last year's, or by semester. So I'm going to select this year's classes. And then if I go over to category, you can see that I can go to category detail, and I can add a category. Now, for your categories, you should have formative and summative. So I'm going to click on add, and the code, you can type in the whole thing, or you can type in just like an F for formative. I'm going to type the word formative. And remember that formative is anything that forms the knowledge. So if you wanted to put a description, you could say warm-ups, classwork, whatever you'd like to add in for formative. I would not be specific. I would just leave it as formative. Under category calculation weight, this should be 50 for 50% because this is half of their overall grade is formative. Under grade scale, you want it to be standard. Under entry mode, you can choose whether you want it numeric or letter only. Under total points, you can leave that blank for right now. And extra credit, this would be if you're setting it like a standard, like you're going to always, everything informative is going to be 100 points. You could choose that. I leave it blank because I would prefer to add the points per assignment. This is the same thing with extra credit points. I would not change that right now. Under visibility type, you have several things. You have public, private, and public no grades. Anything that says public means that a parent and a student can see it. If it's private, only you can see it. So as you're entering your categories, you do want to have this checked as public. And then here is where you would want to add the category to the other classes. So if you teach the same prep or you're going to have the same categories for all the other classes, you can select this and it will add that category to those classes. Okay. And then you want to do that, you have formative and your other option is summative. So summative is the same way we just did formative, but summative would be maybe projects, tests, quizzes. Again, you don't have to give it a description, or maybe you have to put something in there, but you could say summative. You don't have to specifically spell out what you're putting in there. Grade scale, again, should be standard. Entry mode, you can say both if you want. And then skipping on down, you want your visibility type to be public. And again, you can add the category from there. Another thing to point out is that once you're finished your first year and you're on your second year or you're starting new classes semester 2, you can import categories. So if you click import categories, you can choose where you want to import it from. It's going to be standard. And then over here, you can choose past classes that you have taught to import the categories from. And this just saves you a little bit of time. You can select specific categories that you want to import or all categories that you want to import.